All right, guys, quick and dirty guide to the Iphigenia, or the Iphigenia at Aulis. So the movie is based on the original tragedy that would have been performed probably in 406. We also think that's when it was written. And it's happening toward the end of the Peloponnesian Wars. So Athens was gearing up for another battle that they hoped would reverse the downward slide they were in. It was a bit of a tailspin. The next year at Ptolemy, Athens completely loses to Sparta. It's over. So they don't know that the writing is on the wall necessarily when this play happens, but it is not turning out well for them at this point. So if you're in an Athenian audience, you are very worried about your future. You've been dealing with by then over a decade of pandemic. There was a plague that had broken out in Athens. You've lost your farmland. You're stuck behind the long walls. Most of your fleet got destroyed at Sicily during the Sicilian expedition in 215. Or sorry, not 215, 415. It's not great news here. Okay, now to the setting of the Iphigenia. The Iphigenia! So this is set in the Trojan War, before the Trojan War happens. So as all of the Greeks are gearing up to sail, the sacred deer of Artemis gets killed, and that you can follow pretty well in the movie. So no Trojan War yet, but everybody's been rounded up to go. The momentum is there. Not going on the Trojan War would be super duper awkward. But still, there is time to nope out of the Trojan War. So who are these people? First, let's talk about Clytemnestra. In fact, she's going to be our focal point for introducing you to the family. So Clytemnestra is one of four siblings, with her sister Helen and her brothers Castor and Pollux. They're not in here, but they're part of the mix. Now, Helen and Clytemnestra hatched out of eggs because their mother had had sex with Zeus, who was then dressed up like a swan, who got up close and personal with her, at which point she realized, this must be Zeus. Zeus. Now, Helen is, in some versions of this myth, considered the divine twin, and Clytemnestra is the not so divine. The play doesn't really take a stance on this, but Helen is considered the prettiest of the sisters, and she is the person over whom this war is happening, because she either was kidnapped or ran off with a Trojan, leaving her husband Menelaus behind. Now, not only are Clytemnestra and Helen sisters, but their husbands are brothers, Agamemnon and Menelaus. So Agamemnon is married to Clytemnestra, Menelaus is married to Helen, somewhat, at the beginning of this play. Now Agamemnon is Clytemnestra's second husband. Husband number one was a dude named Tantalus. She had a son with him, and in the universe of this play, Agamemnon killed Tantalus and their son because he wanted Clytemnestra for himself. And Clytemnestra, like a lot of women in this quasi-mythological universe, and also the 5th century BCE for that matter, couldn't do anything about it. Her father agreed to the match, so she's stuck with this new guy. So she tries to get over it. She marries Agamemnon. They have 3 children, Iphigenia or Iphigenia, Electra, and Orestes, the little baby boy in this movie. Agamemnon does what he does. I won't spoil the movie for you too much. And then he sails off to Troy. I don't think that's much of a spoiler. Everybody in the Athenian audience would have known this. Agamemnon goes to Troy. Clytemnestra is left alone for 10 years. During this time, she stews over the things that happen in this play, and she takes up with a dude named Aegisthus, who's vaguely related to Agamemnon for reasons that we don't need to get into now. When Agamemnon comes home with his new Trojan girlfriend, by the way, Agamemnon brings home Cassandra from the war, who is his new squeeze. Totally innocent in all of this. She's doesn't want to be in this marriage any more than Clytemnestra does. Thank you, Kitty. Hi. So, Clytemnestra welcomes Agamemnon home, lures him into the bathtub, and then her lover just this, or she marries him eventually. Husband is cool. Marries him in the bathtub while Clytemnestra goes after Cassandra with an axe, as you do. I really can't find it in my heart to judge her for this. So that's part of what the audience knows, is Clytemnestra ends up murdering the crap out of Agamemnon. Whether or not you think she was justified, sit with this play and see how you feel. Meanwhile, anything else I want to say about this? Yeah. So after Clytemnestra murders Agamemnon, her son Orestes grows up in this dilemma, because his father was murdered, and part of your duty as somebody's son is to kill the person who murdered your father. But the person who murdered his father was his mom. So he feels very conflicted about it, and the gods, especially Apollo, start pushing him like, yeah, murder your mom, avenge your father, she's not really your mom anyway. And Orestes is like, oh, she's my mom, but oh, my dad, but oh. And he never really knew his dad because his dad went off to Troy, so he missed the formative years, but he feels this connection. So he ends up murdering his mom, and then pursued hither and yon across the land by the Furies because he murdered his mom, and the gods don't like it when you murder your parent, even if you avenge your other parent, and it's all sticky and sad. Now, you'll notice Achilles is on this family tree, not because he's involved in it in any way. Achilles is somebody else's kid. He's from a completely different city-state, but he's here in the mix because of reasons. So here's how all the characters are related. You can keep this slide open while you're watching the movie in case you're confused by all the names. But that's what's going on here. Enjoy!